LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.
Okay, it's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce and invite my good friend, Lian Tong Min. I believe I pronounced your name well. Liam is the CMO, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer of one of these beautiful projects that is taking place in this part of the world, Colombo Port City. So Colombo Port City is an extension of to the city, and that is going to be the new central business CBD of our country. And the investment expected on Port City exceeds $15 billion. Now let's put this in perspective. Mahaveli project was $1 billion. So that was approximately 30 years ago. In today's money, whatever the value of money, I believe it is in the region of 5 to 6 billion. So you're talking about an investment, okay, 3 to 4 times bigger than Mahaveli, the largest ever infrastructure or development project, that took place in this nation. So the port city is expected to bring investments exceeding $15 billion. So that is mind-boggling. Let's put that in another perspective. 15 billion out of 80 billion GDP. So you're talking about 1/5 of our GDP. A cash equivalent to 1/5 of our GDP flowing into those 500 acres that are being reclaimed. So Lian is going to take us through a very interesting presentation. And I'm sure that most of you have not seen this presentation, and that is the best kept secret in Sri Lanka today. Lian, over to you.
Thank you. I was just telling the technicians that I do not like to hide behind the rostrum. So I'm going to speak from here, and I hope, it's my first time using a wireless like this. I hope it works. Normally it just clips onto the lapels, yeah? Good evening, Dr. Harsha De Silva, Honorable Acting Minister for Foreign Affairs. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be speaking to you tonight on my project, which I have worked on for slightly more than a year and a half. I remember last year when we were getting into the public relations headwinds, LBO was the first organization that gives us an opportunity to speak in a forum similar to this. It's called the CEO Forum, and that was the middle of last year. And since then, of course, Lakshman came and asked me if I would like to participate in the first infrastructure summit. But then at that point in time, I think we lack a proper status to be participating. This year, thankfully, we got back that status, which is why I'm here today, all right? Lakshman told me that I got only 15 minutes, and don't I dare exceed that. Then a few minutes ago, he came to me and told me that the minister's not coming, so you got 20 minutes, all right? So I hope to do justice in these 20 minutes. But what I can tell you here today is that I'm not going to give you a full detailed briefing about what this project's all about. It's going to be just skimming through the surface. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, will have heard of the port city. Most of you will have heard something about the port city that's been said everywhere else. And most of the things that's been said about us, probably not too true in the public domain. So I hope to be able to just give a bit of a clarification about what we really are, what we are doing, all right? And hopefully this evening when you leave this room, you will leave with a slightly different perception of the project itself, all right? So without further delay, let me just proceed. This is where we gain back our status on the 12th of August, the signing ceremony between our company and the Ministry of Megapolis and UDA, witnessed by 3 of the Sri Lankan ministers. The project vision. Basically, we feel that this is a project that's not just targeted towards Sri Lanka, and I will explain later when we show some numbers. All right, it is a project that's targeted towards the whole South Asian market. All right, the South Asian market is 1.7 billion in population today, with an estimated about 300,000 of high net worth individuals expected to double in about 10 years' time. That forms the core market that we are looking at. And if you look at the core market that we are looking at, and basically if you can profile these people, then you will ask yourself, what do they need? What is the kind of lifestyle that they lead? All right? And how do we build a city that could cater and answer to this core market that we're looking at? And of course, these people do not just come here and live in a little isolation by themselves. They will have to be served by a group of people who would provide the kind of services that they are looking forward to in the city that they live in. All right? And therefore, that would provide job opportunities, living environment as well for the core group of people, whether they are local or they are foreign expatriates working in the port city itself and going down the value chain all the way down to the people who would need to help to maintain the project. All right. So as you can see, the project has got certain numbers, but really the attractiveness of the project is in the multiplier effect it has, not only from the investment, right? The investment in putting together that piece of land, the investment in putting together the buildings that will be on the piece of land, the investment that will be going in for people who want to set up businesses within these buildings, and the career opportunities that it offers to both foreign expatriates and even more so the locals, all right? And of course, the businesses that will benefit when they cater to the needs and wants of this group of people. So when we say that we want to create a South Asian hub attractive to all these high net worth individuals, then we will have to also put together a world-class business and financial center, all right? Luxury residences for them to live in, lifestyle and entertainment developments for them to be able to enjoy their stay while within the project itself. Of course, in a brand new modern city of today, the fact that we have to put in the sustainable concepts is a given, all right? We are looking into making it a smart city as well, all right? And the blue and green concept that will make the environment of the city very, very livable. Before I go into the city per se, this is the, if you may see it, the laser pointer is not very strong. That's the existing expressway from the airport that ends at the Kalani River, all right? The connectivity part of the port city, which is extremely important because if these people are coming from various cities, they must be able to access the port city very easily. So the proposed extension of the expressway from the Kalani River, which is the light blue dots that you see, right into one of the entrances of the port city. And then at the Kalani River, the expressway from the Kalani River, another extension that will bring you to the Rajagiriya area and also towards the Southern Expressway. The other proposed, I stress, proposed connection, would be the underground tunnel that we intend to put together from the second entrance of the port city towards the Marine Drive at the Kolopitia Junction so that we do not add to the traffic congestion of Gore Road, and to connect between the first entrance and the second entrance of the port city, underground tunnel system as well. The port city is a part of the Western megapolis. We are a small part of the Western megapolis. So if you notice on the map of the Sri Lanka island itself, the whole gray patch is where the Western megapolis is. There is actually a darker gray part which is not very obvious, which is where the Colombo district is, all right? And if we blow that up to the light yellow picture, and the darker yellow picture is where the existing Colombo city is, and we are just that wonderful blue dot by the side, all right? So the project is not very big. If you look at it, we are running from where the existing port is, the breakwater of the port, somewhere towards the Beira Lake outlet, and from the coast all the way out to the end of the breakwater, existing breakwater. So in dimension-wise, it is about 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, roughly, all right, yielding about 269 hectares of reclaimed land. Now, the fact is that if you find that longest length, diagonally, I think, across the port city, and you land an A380 on one side, that plane could not stop in time. By the time it reached the other end, it will end in the sea, because the runway for A380 is 4 kilometers, and this diagonal length is measured at about 2.6 kilometers whereabouts. So we are not really big, if you look at it that way. The other way to look at it is that we have actually superimposed our footprint against Colombo District 7th. All right, and we realize that we are just about 70% the size of Colombo 7. That's all. All right, so it's a very small place. If you hear anything about us running all the way to Velavate and all that stuff, it's not true. All right? These are some of the keywords that were used by our master planners in designing the city. So you could see words like livable, green and blue, innovative. A lot of keywords that you see would be what you would expect a brand new, a spanking new modern city to be. All right? By the way, our master planners are from Sweden. It's a company called Sweco. Okay? The sustainable site development strategy includes things like how to incorporate stormwater recycling, how to basically try and encourage the use of solar energy, how to also encourage, for example, the use of building designs to minimize energy consumption. All right? So all these things have been thought through within the basic design of the master plan itself. The other part that you would like to probably also take note of is the transportation vision that we have for the port city. And basically, if you look at the transportation pyramid, this is to the left, is where you see what a typical city is all about. So right at the top of the pyramid, at the highest, most priority, is where you have the personalized motor vehicles, all right? And then as you move down, you will get things like public transport, and right at the bottom is where the pedestrian traffic is. Now, we intend to turn this right the other way around. In other words, the port city design is done in such a way that the pedestrian traffic is right at the top priority, all right? Followed by cycling, and so on and so forth, with personalized motorized vehicles right at the bottom, okay? How can we do this? Simply by making the whole place very walkable to start with. How do you make it walkable? A lot of landscaping, a lot of sheltered walkways, okay? Probably the incorporation of some cycling kiosks along the way so that you can rent a bicycle from one side of the city, cycle to the other side of the city, and return it there. All right? So all this has been thought through, and if I may give you an example, the Marina Bay in Singapore is designed with a very similar concept. And the target over there is to achieve an ambience temperature of the city at an average 1 to 2 degrees below the other parts of the Singapore city. So the same concept would then basically be applied here, so to speak. Project implementation, 2 parts. The first part, which will be spread over 3 years with an expected investment of about $1.4 billion, would see us reclaim the whole expanse of land, 269 hectares, with the infrastructure of phase 1 being completed, and later I will show you where phase 1 is, and the marine structure, basically the breakwaters and so on and so forth, to protect the whole project itself. The second part, which is expected to last anything from about 5 to about, which lasts anything from about 20 to 25 years, okay, would see us garnering another $13 billion of investment, mainly into the vertical development, the building's cost of the project itself, or the remaining infrastructure, i.e. the infrastructure of phase 2, all right, and the complete city development according to the master plan. So the city itself has got 5 unique urban characteristics. Right in the middle, you'll notice there's a green patch here. We call this the Central Park Living, anchored by a central park itself. The park spaces within the city is estimated at about 45 hectares, and that makes it 3 times the size of the golf face green. All right. Central Park Living basically is a concept where we have a lot of residential buildings around the Central Park, and how we can actually design that to leverage as fully as possible the park itself, so that the living environment around there would be one that is filled with green, all right, and basically very, very pleasant, all right. Then to the right, we have the Central Business District. That's going to be the Colombo International Financial City, all right. That's where the commercial projects are going to be. Then further down south here is the marina lifestyle, anchored by a marina. The yellow part here, which is more residential. And then the light purplish part here, we call it the International Island, so-called because there are a couple of strategic developments there where we hope to attract international service providers to operate in that part of the project itself. And I will elaborate further what we are referring to later. So these are some of the renderals, the architect's impression of what the project will look like. That's the financial city earlier. This is the International Island, the marina lifestyle, Central Park Living, the living island. This is the master plan, all right? Let me just very quickly describe it for you. The different shades of yellows that you see, all those are the residential plots, all right? The ones that are red are the commercial building plots that could comprise of both commercial offices and retail. The purplish ones, there are one here, 2, 3, and 4. That's meant for hotel and service apartments. And then you would have the dark brown one right at the top left-hand corner of the master plan itself. There's about 14 hectares worth of land that's meant for a theme park development. And you have 3 turquoise plots here. The 2 rectangular ones, one for a medical healthcare facility, the other one for an education facility, and the third, which is a little bit of a fan shape, meant for a convention and exhibition center. I hope I covered everything. Of course, this is the marina, right at the bottom. I'm sorry, this is not working as well as it should. You could see the hook right at the bottom. That's the marina. And then you have that beaches over there, which is estimated about 3 kilometers in length. All right. And one of the features that you'll see here is that there's the external breakwater, which is about 300 meters away from the project itself. And what that would do is that it will calm the ocean waves before it hits the project, making this 300 meters width of lagoon a very, very safe place for you to enjoy some sea sports and swimming. This is the FAR plan, which is basically the density of the project itself. Basically, the numbers represent the amount of floor area you can have on each plot versus the plot size. So most of them are quite modest, running from about 2 to about 4 in general, and the high-density ones at about 8, roughly. All right. So for CBD, that's pretty modest. If you look at basically a few key numbers, one is that the overall public infrastructure land versus the saleable land, the land that you build on, is about 40%. And that means 40% of the land is used for public purposes, i.e. a lot of green parks, a lot of park connectors, a lot of places for basically the public to enjoy. If you look at the other key number, which is the gross FAR, In other words, the total buildable floor areas versus the project itself is just slightly above 2. And that basically means that it is not going to be a very dense place with a lot of high buildings, and therefore it becomes very crowded. This is the building height plan. So you could see basically from the light yellows all the way up to the darker shade of browns, all right, running from about mainly 20 to 30 meters here in height. And basically, the higher plots are restricted mainly to the business district at 200 meters. 200 meters will yield you about 50 to 60 stories buildings, roughly. All right. Shangri-La is about 60, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then we have got 2 unlimited plots over here, but basically we project that that would be limited to about 300 meters. All right. In comparison, the 3 tallest buildings in Singapore right now is running at 280 meters, with a new one that's at 290 meters. That's basically the same height that we are looking at. This is a skyline study. So you'll notice that this is a north to south study, which is basically the view of A, i.e. you go all the way out to the sea and turn around and look back. That's what you see at the top. And then if you go down to Golf Face Hotel and look at the project itself, that's where you see at the second line itself. All right? Now, this study is very important because it basically answers 2 things. One is the wind flow within the project to make sure that there's sufficient wind flowing through the whole project itself. And the other one is basically the sunlight shadow studies that you put in to make sure that there's sufficient sunlight provision within the whole city. This is phase 1. So by the right is where the existing CBD is. So you could notice that actually phase 1 covers more towards the part of the project that is in the proximity of the existing city. One of the things you'll notice over here is that the amount of commercial office space that we are going to provide here. Let me give you some numbers that came from our friends from JLL, all right? The existing Grade A offices in Sri Lanka at the moment stands at about 220,000 square meters. That includes your World Trade Center and other various better buildings that you find in the existing city itself. In the next 3 to 5 years, this number is expected to double with the completion of Shangri-La, ITC, Cinnamon Life. So we are getting about 400,000 square meters of office space in Sri Lanka. The whole of Sri Lanka, the whole, whatever that's within Colombo City. This project is going to give you 1.5 million square meters, almost 4 times the size of whatever you have right now. So while the physical dimensions doesn't seem that big, the amount of space that we have in there is a lot, which is why we are not targeted towards the Sri Lankan market alone. It has to answer to the region. And I think that's where we are pretty in sync with the vision of the Prime Minister in wanting Sri Lanka to answer to that geographical gap between Dubai and Singapore. And therefore, we do not just serve Sri Lanka, we serve the whole South Asia, so to speak. So this is phase 2. These are some of the numbers that I've mentioned earlier, all right? These are some of the strategic developments we have within the port city. So the theme park, all right, which would be done at phase 2 itself at a later time, but we hope to create a good family-oriented theme park for Sri Lankans, tourists, and the residents of Port City, all alike. The International Financial Center, that's a picture of Shanghai Pudong. Okay, Shanghai Pudong is basically going to be the next financial center of China, probably overtaking Hong Kong, right? A retail destination. This is interesting. This is a picture of the Marina Bay Sands retail mall, actually, if you recognize it. Okay, the Convention and Exhibition Center, the Marina and Lifestyle Development, International Medical Center. That's a picture of the Mao E, old Mao E in Singapore. We hope to be able to bring something of equal stature, all right? A top international school, the United World College, all right, and some hospitality developments. So these are some of the key strategic developments that we will have there that will help us drive that demand and bring the target market into the port city. Just to give you one very quick analogy, I mean, if you are, for example, a high net worth individual from Mumbai and you need to seek medical treatment, if we go to Singapore, for example, to Mount E, and if we can bring a Mount E here, then you would save about 3 to 4 hours of flight time and maybe quite a lot of costs, all right, by coming to this place, okay? And then if you have a kid that is maybe about 10 years old and you need to send to school, instead of sending him to London or the US, if you bring one of these education institutions here, you send him to Colombo. And the good part about sending him to Colombo, you can leave Mumbai, get here in 2.5 hours to see your kid, then to fly more than 10 hours to go to London to see your kid, yeah? So if you look at the whole strategic developments that we have planned within this particular project itself, a lot of this answers and caters to this target market that we are looking at, all right? And of course, all these developments require a workforce. And this is where the career opportunities for the whole of Sri Lanka will come about. And that's where we estimate that 83,000 job opportunities for Sri Lankans. Just a quick rundown on the company profile. We are there right at the bottom, Czech Port City Colombo, owned 100% by China Harbour in Beijing, okay? China Harbour in Beijing, together with another major company, China Road and Bridge Construction Company, was merged in 2004 to form China Communications Construction Company, CCCC, which in turn is then listed in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. We are ranked 110 in the Fortune 500 and number 3 amongst all construction companies in the world. China Harbour itself was founded in 1980 with about 70 offices globally, operating in 80 different countries with 15,000 employees. These are some of the things that we have built along the way in our company's track record, all right? What's interesting, the Hong Kong Island, the Hong Kong Airport reclamation. The Hong Kong Airport, by the way, is 5 times the size of the port city, all right? We also happen to have built the new wing extension of the oldest hotel casino in Macau, the Lisboa, all right? And currently, we are also doing that bridge link between Hong Kong to Macau, which is touted as the most complicated engineering project in the world. And also the second Penang Bridge for those of you who want to look closer to home. This is the list of consultants that we have. Above the line, the international consultants. So we have the legal consultants, the management consultants, 2 of the world top real estate consultants, a project management consultant. On the second row, Swico, that's our master planner. ACOM, which helps us with the infrastructure and the landscaping. That's the major American infrastructure consultancy. Atkins, a UK-based consultancy, and they are basically our master plan auditors. Then we have ICEM and CDR, 2 of the top global coastal engineering consultants, one from the Netherlands, the other one from Hong Kong. And Sabana Jurong, used by the government as well. We are using them to do our design control regulations, which basically determines what you can build, what you can't build within the city. And then a distinguished panel of local consultants, including some top universities and, of course, some of the very best local consultancy firms. That's it from me today. There are no questions, I suppose, and right. So I hope this brief presentation will give you another different insight into the project itself. You know, along the way, we'll be happy to engage with all of you more and explain what we might be trying to do with the project. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leanne. I think it is an extremely interesting and also very important presentation because there are a lot of stories, as we know, okay, about the port city. A lot of stories which are ground stories. One of the craziest ideas I heard about port city about 1.5 years ago was that no plane can fly over port city because that space is owned by Chinese government. So I immediately called Leanne and asked, Leanne, what is this nonsense? That means I can't fly my private jet over port city? He said, absolutely wrong. So these are the kind of stories we heard about. So now we know, okay, where it's what is project, what is the scale, and what is the scope. And at the beginning, okay, Leanne totally underestimated the scale of it. He said it is just only 70% of Colombo 7. Okay, but we know the impact, the economic impact it is going to make to our nation and to the whole South Asian region is unbelievable. So that's the beauty of it. Sad thing is, by the time it is completed and delivered, I'll be 80 years old. But good thing is that gives me another 25 years to earn about $5 million to buy one of those, apartments. Thank you so much once again, Leanne, joining us, and also, continue to partner with us in this mutually beneficial partnership. We greatly appreciate all the support we are getting from Port City. Thank you so much.
LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.